So my name is Matt Klassen, and I am the Director of Solutions Marketing for the ALM segment, which includes sales enablement, includes understanding customer needs and messaging and positioning, competitive intelligence in the market. There's been a natural convergence of ALM and PLM in the market in the last several years. The role of software within products specifically has grown really exponentially. Companies like Continental, who had 2-to-1 ratio of hardware engineers to software, is now flipped, so it's 2-to-1 software to hardware engineers. High tech and electronics, they're saying that they more have like a 5-to-1 ratio. Software used to be considered a component, a part, right, within the world of product engineering, has now become a strategic differentiator to these organizations. Organizations are having to rethink how they do engineering, how they do development, how they do systems engineering, really, to take into account for software. That fundamental notion is changing the way, again, products are built, which is forcing companies to think about things like change. Software change is fundamentally different. The way Continental describes it is, out of every 100 changes in their parts, if you will, that they supply, right, their systems they supply to the OEMs, that 90 of them are in software, 9 are electrical, and 1 is mechanical. And then you think about when those changes occur in the engineering life cycle, right? More than half of the software changes occur after the halfway point between inception to release to manufacturing. While hardware is locking down to where they can't make changes, right, because of the prototypes and so forth, software change is really just ramping up. A big theme is traceability. So how do we, in the past it wasn't as important, but now we need traceability, full traceability from system requirements into architecture, flowing down into electrical, mechanical, software, all the way down to code in many instances, and it's even being mandated in many organizations and industries. The latest entrant, if you will, into the world of standards and regulations is a standard called ISO 26262, which is a functional safety standard for automotive. The standard dictates that they actually compute what's called an automotive safety integrity level. So as they look at features, they need to look at them from a safety perspective, a hazard perspective, and understand which hazards could actually cause harm, and they actually rate those, okay, and rank those. And then the requirements, as they go from system level down into hardware and software requirements, they must have full traceability down to the requirements that actually mitigate those risks, right, those hazards and risks that they've identified. And show that, and then they actually have to carry that all the way down into the code, and they have to show traceability to the actual code that is actually responsible, right, for mitigating those risks. As soon as a change occurs, let's say to a requirement, to a risk or a hazard, they have to follow that chain, understand the impact of the change, and propagate those changes appropriately all the way down into the software, and show full audit history of that. There's really 3 areas in terms of the integration between Integrity and Windchill, but specifically around the notion of requirements and being able to author requirements, okay, in Integrity's rich document-based environment. However, those requirements are actually many times system level requirements or hardware requirements, not just software requirements. And so those requirements can then be published, okay, captured in this very rich authoring environment within Integrity, and then published within Windchill. Engineers, a broader set of stakeholders or team members within a development project, have access to Windchill, and they think of the product in terms of the product structure. We can actually then publish those requirements into the product structure so that those requirements can be viewed, right, and direct the development activities, detailed design work within the other engineering disciplines, as well as then linked directly to all of the relevant components, parts, elements, if you will, within that product structure. If you want to understand progress, right, you think about progress towards meeting the requirements. If you want to think about validation, verification, quality, right, it's about meeting the requirements. And so having traceability back to the requirements is important in that respect. In addition, if I'm an engineer and I'm making decisions, design decisions, many times I need to understand the context to make the best decision, to make the right decision of the requirements. And so it's very, very important for them to have the ability to very quickly and efficiently gain access to the original requirements that are basically directing them. The other aspects there's two other ones. One is the integration of defects. So issues and defects. So obviously it could be very common to log a defect within a PLM system, right? To capture a defect or an issue. If that's software related, in many instances, it would be helpful to then be able to synchronize that defect within Integrity, so that you could then take that defect in its life cycle to actually make the fix, whatever it needs to be fixed within the software environment. And then the third area is, of course, software from a component perspective. So when you think about the actual the software that gets embedded in a product, right, the final build, if you will, needs to be synchronized with the right hardware versions. That synchronization, making sure you get the right software components and parts and the right versions of those, is very, very important. And so Integrity manages the code, manages the build of the software, and then can basically publish and or synchronize the right build versions, if you will, right into that bill of materials. A typical organization that invests in Integrity and gains significant value from it, there's several factors. So size of the engineering organization is one factor. Typically, it's 50 to 100 or more engineers. So if they have 50 to 100 software engineers or more, right, all the way up to however many thousands, tens of thousands, then they can see fairly significant value because they have enough to coordinate across those engineers. But the other factor is compliance and complexity. So if they're in a high compliance environment, it actually could be a smaller team, but they have to formally actually connect, right? That traceability and managing change across that entire stack is critical to their environment. And then the other one is just complexity. In some instances, you have smaller teams, but they have such a highly complex software-intensive product that they need additional rigor in their workflow and management and traceability.